What's going on, everyone? Like Sports back with another video, and in this video, I'm going to be talking about a New York Giants potential trade target. Now, I'm going to be doing a bunch of these videos in the off season. This is kind of a series, if you guys remember, like I did with the Leafs last off season, and like I'm doing with the Giants right now of who should the New York Giants re-sign. I did this with the Leafs for trade candidates. I did it for free agent re-signings. I did it for all that stuff. I kind of like to do them, and I'm going to be doing my first one for the New York Giants this offseason. All the guys that I'm planning on doing, right now are all wide receivers on the trade market. And in this video, I'm going to be doing DeAndre Hopkins. Now, DeAndre Hopkins, Hopkins is a guy who, has had a really good career. There's no question about that. Hopkins has been around for quite some time, and he's been a really good wide receiver in this league. He's going to be turning 31, though, in June. So he'll be starting next season as a 31-year-old. So he's not, the most, eye-popping in terms of the age, but, he definitely is a good wide receiver. He's got, almost 12,000 yards career receiving. He's got almost 900 receptions. He's got 71 touchdowns. He's one of those all-time great receivers, that they don't come around often, right? And DeAndre Hopkins wants out of Arizona, and they have kind of given him, they've kind of granted him, that they're probably going to trade him. They're an organization that's fallen apart. I think they should trade Kyler Murray coming off that injury. He's probably not going to be the same. Try and, get what you can. Kingsbury's gone. Their GM's gone. There's a lot going on there. So, it's going to be an interesting offseason for the Cardinals, no question. And I do think that DeAndre Hopkins will get moved. Now, should the New York Giants trade for the 5-time Pro Bowler and the 3-time All-Pro? Yes, but under the right circumstances. Now, Hopkins, he played 9 games this past season, and he had 64 receptions and 717 yards, which is remarkable. And he played one of the games that he played, he had 1 catch for 5 yards before getting hurt. So, this is pretty crazy for DeAndre Hopkins. He's that good. He is not a joke. He, from his days with the Texans, he's always been that good wide receiver. Makes highlight reel catches. We saw a highlight reel catch with him against the Bills last year on the Cardinals. So he's been crazier 2 years ago maybe. Now, looking at DeAndre Hopkins' numbers from this season, what he's averaging per game, we'll do it with that game where he only caught 1 pass before getting hurt and then without, right? So, he averaged over 7 catches per game, as well as 80 yards per game. He had 3 touchdowns, so that's 1 every 3 games. Really, 8 if you're looking, 1 every 2.5 kind of if you're looking at it without that Tampa Bay game where he got hurt. Now, looking at it without that 1 catch and without that other game played, he averaged 8 catches per game and 90 yards per game. So that's Hopkins for you, without the crazy production, right? Without, with him playing banged up, with Kyler Murray at quarterback, who, he's good, but he's not tremendous at throwing, and he's definitely had, a tough past 2 years, but dating back before that, he had 4 straight 1,000-yard seasons. The 1 year where he didn't have 1,000 yards, he had 954, and the 2 years before that, he had over 1,000 yards. So, in his past 7 seasons, he's had 6 1,000-yard, seasons between 2014 and 2020, and those aren't just 1,000-yard seasons; they're 12 to 1,600-yard seasons. It's remarkable. He's led the league in touchdowns in 2017 with 13. He had 2 other years where he had 11 touchdown passes. He's sensational. Now, what will the price be? That's the ultimate question. If the Giants can get DeAndre Hopkins, for a second-round pick, I would definitely do it. For their second-round pick, I would do it. It would probably cost more. Maybe a second and a fourth, maybe a second and a third. At that price, I would do it. As long as you're not giving up, and I wouldn't do it, in the same year, right? If you're going to do a second and a third, I wouldn't make them both this year. I'd make the third next year. This year, if I'm going to do a second and a fourth, I would maybe do them both this year, so that you still have your first and third, and you get to kind of keep all your draft capital for next year. But if DeAndre Hopkins' demand is a first-round pick, I would not do that. I don't value him at a first-round pick. If the Giants are going to do that, I wouldn't be mad, but I would prefer they don't give up a first-round pick for DeAndre Hopkins. Looking at his contract, he's got 2 years left on the deal. At a cap hit of $30.7 million next year, and then $26.2 before he's an unrestricted free agent at the age of 33 in 2025. Now, if the Giants, if they do trade for DeAndre Hopkins, that'll mean he'll be here past 2024, right? They'll extend him. They won't trade him to have him for 2 years. That won't happen. But like I said, if the Giants can trade for DeAndre Hopkins and it be at the right price, I would love that to happen. I think that that's the right move. He's a great receiver. He would do wonders for Daniel Jones. We've seen it throughout his career. He was a first-round pick for a reason back in 2013. Came from Clemson. He is proven to be a top 5 receiver in the league when healthy. And if it costs the Giants a second and a 4 or a second and a third, I would do it. I would not trade a first, though. I just simply think that I'd rather have the 23rd or 22nd or wherever we're probably going to be picking. I'd rather have that pick than DeAndre Hopkins. But, if the Giants can get DeAndre Hopkins for the, 51st pick and, the 110th pick, I would do it. I think that makes a lot of sense. Then you could still draft a defensive player in the first round, and you could spend a third-round pick on a receiver if you want, or another defensive player. I think it leaves options open. So I do think that this is definitely a possibility. Now, I'm not like I always do with these series. I don't make predictions. I'm gonna say though, I think the Giants do have a top 3 chance at landing DeAndre Hopkins. I think they're in the top 3 of the teams that are interested in Hopkins, and I think they'll be the top 3 front runners to land him. I do think that, and I think if I do actually think that the Giants will use the trade market for wide receivers, and that's why I'm doing. That's the main reason why I'm doing, this series, because I do think that the Giants will trade for a wide receiver as opposed to drafting one. I think that there's a lot of needs on this football team, and I think trading, the trade market is a good option, given that the wide receivers in the class, other than Quentin, Johnson, are guys who have had injury histories in the past, and I just think that they're a little bit more risky. So I do think that I think that the trade market is probably more likely for the Giants, and I do think, I will say this, I do think that they will trade for a wide receiver. I don't know if that means they'll trade their first-round pick, but I do think that they do use the trade market for their number 1 wide receiver for next year, and I still think that in the first 4 rounds, they will draft a wide receiver. But guys, that's all I got in this video. You guys let me know down in the comment section your thoughts on the possibility of the Giants trading for DeAndre Hopkins. I think it's certainly a possibility. I think, like I said, the Giants will be in the top 3 teams to land him if he's traded, which I think he will be. And I do think that the Giants will trade for a wide receiver this offseason, a good wide receiver. I think the wide receiver 1 on the Giants next year will be via a trade. And I'm looking forward to see who that may be. I think the Giants are ready to win. I think a trade for a wide receiver, I think it's time to do that. And I'm excited for the game tomorrow. You guys let me know, like I said, down in the comment section, all of that good stuff. And as always, please leave a like on the video. Subscribe to the channel if you guys are new. We'll see you guys on the next video. Let's get that W tomorrow. And as always, let's go Giants.